My name is Emily. Currently, I live with my husband, Tom. However, after various ups and downs, I've thought several times about divorcing Tom once things settled down. But I've never found the time, so I'm still married to him. Our children have grown up and left our care, and our younger son has even married. So I was thinking it might be time to consider divorce. Then, our eldest son, John, brought home his fiancée, Catherine. I look forward to getting along well. Mother-in-law. Saying that she firmly grasped my hand. Seeing her smiling cutely, I thought it was natural for our son John to like her. With her cute smile and engaging conversation, not only John but also my husband, Tom, seemed to like her. Really, Catherine is such a wonderful girl. We only have 2 sons, so it feels like I finally have a daughter, which makes me happy. Seeing my husband smiling and stretching his nose towards Catherine, I couldn't help but sigh. The main reason I want to divorce him is his bad behavior towards women. Since marrying me 30 years ago, he has had affairs at least 6 times. However, each time he got a punishment, and I hesitated to divorce him. Not wanting to deprive our children of their father. He fulfilled his duties as a father. So I thought I would divorce him once the children were independent and needed less care. But since then, he hasn't had an affair, so I haven't brought up a divorce. Part of this is due to my busyness at work, so the delay in discussing divorce is partly my fault. However, that doesn't mean I never expected Tom to do something outrageous now. Hey, Emily. I think it's better if Catherine and John live with us. You know, Catherine has lost her parents and doesn't have any relatives to rely on. So as her in-laws, why don't we support her like her second parents? Hearing this, I tilted my head and wondered, what are you talking about? He usually takes the stance of, don't involve me in troublesome matters. He listens well to our 2 sons and acts as a father. But he becomes difficult when I try to consult with him, and it seems the same with work. We work at the same place, so I occasionally see him at work. He dislikes doing tasks other than what he planned. Therefore, he isn't flexible, and there's no talk of a salary increase. Such a man suddenly wanting to live with our son and his wife, and wanting to support his daughter-in-law is like a bolt from the blue. Are you all right? I didn't think you were the kind of person to say such things. I asked, and he, not realizing his behavior was strange, seemed to interpret my words as disliking the idea of living with Catherine. Looking at me as if he saw something unpleasant. You're not saying you dislike Catherine, are you? Such a nice person is hard to find, you know? Are you irritated because our family has had only one woman? You, until now, and you feel your position is threatened? What's wrong because I was the only woman in this house? I have never enjoyed any special treatment here just because I am a woman. Regardless of gender, I have always been busy here and there to sustain this family. That's not true. I just thought it was unusual for you to start talking like this. You hardly ever take care of others. You've always refused to train newcomers at work. I heard you've never done it even once. When I said that, he seemed to recall his usual behavior and, as if to hide his embarrassment, scratched his head and said, Right. That's true. I usually avoid troublesome matters. But that's about work, isn't it? Catherine is going to be family. So it's normal for me to be concerned about her. Hearing his words, I thought, is that so? But I didn't have a bad impression about Catherine and John living together. However, as newlyweds, I thought Catherine might be against living together. If Catherine is against it, we'll stop talking about living together, alright? It's important to consider the feelings of John and Catherine, now that they are a couple. Don't worry, don't worry. Catherine would never oppose my idea. Tom's confidence that Catherine would not oppose living together, and would even be happy about it, concerned me, but later, after the wedding, Catherine said exactly what Tom had predicted. Living together? That's fine with me. I've lost both my parents. So I've been feeling lonely. Getting married to John and having a new family is wonderful. She seemed very happy. I was amazed at how well things were going and just watched. And so, our life together began. John had always lived in this house and was capable of doing housework. Catherine also said, I'm a full-time housewife. So I'll do my best with the household chores. And she worked hard at cleaning, cooking, and laundry. Initially, I was relieved that Catherine's presence seemed to lessen my burdens. However, every time Catherine did something, Tom would say things like, a beautiful woman like Catherine is needed in this house. Or, I feel so much better physically since Catherine came. Even though he's perfectly healthy. When he deliberately sat next to Catherine on the sofa while drinking, John said, Hey, Dad, you're too close. But Tom, with his face red from the alcohol, replied, Don't worry, don't worry. After all, we're family now. About a month after we started living together, one of my accessories disappeared. I regularly organize my jewelry and accessories, so it's unlikely that I misplaced it. Moreover, the most expensive item was missing from my jewelry box. So I decided to install a camera in my room. At that time, I already had a mistrust towards Catherine, who never showed any discomfort around Tom, who was getting too close. Some of Tom's previous mistresses had shown interest in my belongings. So I thought Catherine might be similar. After a while, a second piece of jewelry went missing, and when I checked the camera, Catherine was indeed caught on tape. However, when I confronted Catherine with the footage, she burst into tears and collapsed on the floor. This is awful. Mother-in-law. I was just organizing your room and got curious about the pretty jewelry. I only picked it up to look at it. And you treat me like a thief for that. Whether she was truly crying or just pretending to be a victim, I wasn't the type to be easily flustered. If you just picked it up, then why is it missing from the container? Where did the jewelry you handled go? I asked calmly, and she cried even more. It seems she thought crying wouldn't work on me, but then she looked for help from someone else. As she planned, Tom, hearing her cries, came rushing in. He embraced Catherine, who was sitting on the floor, and glared at me. Why are you making Catherine cry? I didn't think you were such a wicked person to bully your daughter-in-law. Then, Catherine's husband, John, arrived late and was confused, saying, What's going on here? That's understandable. He saw his crying wife, his father embracing her, and his mother looking at them coldly. It would probably be useless to say anything to Tom or Catherine. I said to John, Come with me, there's something I want you to see. And took him outside the room. I showed him the video. He turned pale seeing Catherine stealing jewelry from my room. Thinking he needed time to process this, I returned to the living room to see the ridiculous pair. From the living room, I could hear their voices. Catherine's tone had changed from crying to being excited. Yes. We got proof of the daughter-in-law bullying. Haru-chan, did you take pictures of me being scolded?
Yeah.
Perfectly. With these photos alone, we can claim Emily made you kneel and scolded you. It seems both of them want to frame me as the villain who bullies the daughter-in-law. What they want by doing this, I guess, is probably to drive me out. I sighed in dismay. By the way, Emily's father passed away recently. Apparently, there was a rumor about him having an estate worth 900 million. 900 million. With 900 million, we could live in leisure. Yes, that's right. That's why I decided not to give Emily her father's inheritance. I'm going to pass the entire 900 million to our eldest son and his wife. Then, you will persuade John to manage the family finances.
Yay!
Then, Haruchan and I can spend the 900 million however we want. It's often said that the minds of those who cheat are in a fantasy land. But it seems Tom, even at his age, has forgotten common sense by having affairs. Why does he think he can decide to pass my intended inheritance to the eldest son and his wife? After all, the decision of who inherits the estate should lie with my father who owns it. I felt a headache coming on. I decided to disrupt the delusional plans of these two. Mom, about what they were just saying. It seems John also overheard his wife and father's conversation along with me. They're having an affair. I shook my head to indicate not to say anything, and we left together. John and I went to a detective agency. There, we requested a detailed investigation into Catherine and Tom's affair. Next is the divorce with Tom. I already had Tom write a divorce paper during his 6th affair. Since he hadn't cheated since then, there was no need to submit it until now. I had intended to discuss it with Tom, but with our second son's marriage, our eldest son's marriage, and my father's funeral, we never found the time to talk. But this time, I'm determined to submit the divorce papers. I filled in my part and quickly submitted the completed divorce papers to the office. Then, I decided to leave the house. When I said, I have a long business trip, Tom didn't try to hide his eagerness for me to leave, as if I was a nuisance. While wondering why I married such a person, I stayed in a hotel near my company. I reluctantly asked John to do a difficult task, to set up cameras in the house and later retrieve them. Though I requested the detective agency's help. Having more evidence was never a problem, so I decided to also record their interactions at home. As a result, after my father's 49th day memorial service, the lawyer informed me that I inherited all of my father's estate. Tom, who insisted on accompanying me and never left my side, couldn't stop grinning when he heard all the inheritance was mine. It's amazing how humans can show such blatantly greedy faces. Then, as soon as Tom brought me home, he told everyone to gather in the living room. Seeing that my eldest son and his wife had gathered, Tom pompously began. I'm giving all the inheritance to the eldest son's family. This is a command from the head of the family. No objections allowed. Hearing this, Catherine, thinking her affair with Tom was still a secret to her husband, looked at John and said, looking forward to the deposit. I'll manage the inheritance for you since you're busy. Her insincerity was blatant. What are you talking about? Inherited wealth from parents doesn't become joint property of the couple. Dad can't just decide what to do with the wealth Mom inherited. Eh? Catherine, apparently unaware of the inheritance laws, was shocked and froze. Tom, too, caught up in his affair and forgetting such common sense, embarrassingly argued. That can't be. I am the head of the family. The master of this house. My orders are absolute. To this, I replied, oh, I sold this house. Can you leave by the end of the month? Tom's eyes widened as he looked at me. Sold it. My house. Since when did this house become yours? This house was inherited by me from my grandfather, and it was never yours. Besides, you've never once paid the property tax, have you? Tom tilted his head, puzzled, and said, property tax. His mind seemed to be filled only with thoughts of his affair, devoid of any other knowledge. I thought it was okay, since he showed affection to our 2 children. But that was not enough. After all, he went as far as to have an affair with his own son's wife. No, the truth was even worse. Oh, John and I both know that you two have been together since before John's marriage. And you married him to get close to me without raising suspicion. To live together in this house. How did you? Why would you think that about me and Tom? Catherine seemed genuinely shocked. But I couldn't understand why she thought she wouldn't be caught. I've already squeezed almost everything out of Tom from his past 6 affairs. So I don't need anything more. If you want a man who's like burned out ashes, go ahead, I said to Catherine with a smile. And John, standing next to Catherine, said, I'm going to claim alimony from Dad and Catherine. It's my right, given the betrayal I've experienced. Wait a minute. Where is the proof that we had an affair? Oh, you think we did all this without any investigation? I threw the photos taken by the detective agency, including those inside the house, into the air, scattering them around the living room. Upon seeing the photos, Catherine screamed. So, make sure you take responsibility for your actions.
Ah.
And if you don't leave this house by the end of the month, I'll have to call in people who practiced martial arts among my father's subordinates to leave quietly. Saying that, I left the house with John. My divorce is already finalized, and I've referred John to a good lawyer. So his divorce should be settled for sure. I thought it was over, but the next day, when I went to work, surprisingly, Tom was causing a scene in front of the president's office, being restrained by other employees. I'm the president of this company. My father-in-law was the president of this company, right? He didn't have a son. So, as his son-in-law, I'm the next president, right? You all will regret not welcoming me as your subordinate. Anyone who doesn't follow me is fired. I was dumbfounded. Noticing me, the vice president approached and asked, President, what should we do with this guy? Hearing this, Tom exclaimed in shock, President, and looked at me. Why is Emily? You're a woman, right? Female presidents are common everywhere. Besides, I was trained by my father to be his successor from a young age. And unlike you, I can do the job. You were always a problematic employee. But I never thought you'd cause such a disturbance. You seem to have damaged some equipment too. You'll be on disciplinary suspension for a while. I'll inform you of your final dismissal later. As I said this, he tried to cling to me. Don't say that. After that, Catherine dumped me. We're married, help me out. I quickly shrugged him off. What are you talking about? The divorce papers have been processed, we've been strangers for a long time now. At my words, he collapsed on the spot, seemingly crushed. As for Catherine, it turned out her parents were still alive. She had been involved in affairs with married men twice before. And each time, her parents paid the alimony on her behalf. It seemed she was disowned by them. However, causing trouble again. She was practically under house arrest at her parents' home. And was made to work in a job chosen by them. As for Tom, he had spent most of his savings from his bachelor days. And most of his income after marriage as compensation to me, leaving him penniless. He was even asking his son, John, for money. A clear case of reaping what he sowed. All of his relatives, aware of his past actions, refused to help him. Tom even tried to ask his younger son for money, but knowing what Tom had done this time, the younger son had already blocked his calls and cut off contact. I quickly cut off contact too and removed Tom from the company. In the end, he borrowed money from dangerous sources and then disappeared. Now my life is finally secure.